Hello, to Health for You. I want to talk about whole foods. What exactly is whole food? You may be attempting to follow a whole food vegan diet, but you are unsure of where to draw the line. In the strictest sense, whole food is food that is entirely intact, such as an apple in its entirety. Preventing blood sugar and lipid spikes are two major goals of eating whole foods. You're probably already aware of the dangers of blood sugar spikes, but let me quickly explain the dangers of a blood fat spike, also known as hyperlipidemia or sludge blood, which among other things reduces blood flow and oxygen content and can worsen angina in people with heart disease. It can also compromise artery function. In order to prevent heart disease and other circulatory diseases, of which there are many, including Alzheimer's, spinal disc degeneration, erectile dysfunction, and the list goes on, we must avoid it. Growth hormones are a third factor, though, that you also don't want to boost. We are aware that isolated animal proteins can spike these, but isolated plant proteins, such as soy protein isolate, can occasionally spike IGF-1 in larger amounts. You won't likely ever hear me advocate any protein powders on this channel because of the high amounts of IGF-1 that they can promote, among other disorders, acne, and cancer. Therefore, while eating higher calorie foods, whole foods are especially important since fiber slows down the absorption of sugar and fat, preventing blood sugar and blood fat spikes. To further clarify, when it comes to sugar, it's not just about blood sugar increases but also about blood sugar dipping below normal levels. A study that simply demonstrates everything I'm talking about shows that drinking apple juice will peak your blood sugar and then cause your body to go into hypoglycemia, causing it to drop below baseline, which may make you feel a little dizzy, and this will instruct your body to dump triglycerides into your blood because you believe you're starving. This study shows that eating whole apples will cause a normal increase in blood sugar and go back down to baseline. Dr. Esselstyn has conducted research on how a whole food vegan diet may reverse cardiac disease. He stated in an interview, "No juice, for sure. Juice causes a glucose surge. You might as well down the sugar dish." But let's keep things in perspective. Chard contains very few calories, so making juice from it won't cause your blood sugar to spike. You shouldn't be afraid of drinking straight kale juice since it isn't entire. The same is true with tea. Calorie density is important. Turning to fat in food, eating an olive whole won't result in hyperlipidemia, but pressing an olive to make olive oil, even if it's cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, can reduce arterial function by 31%, according to this study. It's because, during digestion, olive oil can be absorbed right away while the fiber and fat found inside the cells of the olive plant are slowly broken down and released, much like how we would eat it in nature. Therefore, it matters when you refine something like an olive because it has a lot of calories, but not so much when you refine something like chard. Alright, so when it comes to choosing your whole food vegan diet, there seems to be a spectrum, perhaps with a grade A whole food vegan diet and a grade B whole food vegan diet. This includes all of those whole food gray areas like tofu, smoothies, and nut butter. This is best demonstrated by comparing the grade A, a more stringent whole food vegan diet that Dr. Esselstyn utilizes to reverse heart disease, with the Engine 2 diet, which is based on Dr. Esselstyn's research. Dr. Esselstyn advises against eating any nuts at all for anyone with heart disease. As nuts are a rich source of saturated fats, my preference is no nuts for heart disease patients. The Engine 2 diet, for instance, calls for nut butter. What is the best option for curing disease is now a step above what is entire and what is not whole. These doctors also frequently refer to food in terms of traffic lights, with a green light meaning to eat as much as you want and a red light meaning to refrain from eating. Consequently, examples of foods that are okay to eat include whole grains and starches like whole wheat and whole oats, potatoes, sweet potatoes, quinoa, millet, beans and veggies, and all vegetables. Returning to nut butters, they contain just as much whole food as ground wheat, but because a serving of peanut butter has 3 grams of saturated fat, it is undoubtedly a yellow light food. Of course, red light items include stuff like meat, dairy, seafood, eggs, and processed sugars. How about smoothies, though? Where do they fit in? Here is the Esselstyn perspective. The fructose gets separated from the fiber when fruit is blended and the stomach absorbs it quickly. This quick absorption damages endothelial cells, glycates protein, and tends to harm the liver, which lines the arteries in your body. Regarding the apple trial, it is true that serving subjects pureed apple also led to hypoglycemia. This demonstrates that intact fiber, not just the presence of fiber, is what stabilizes blood sugar. Soylent is not a healthy food, and it won't be a good day for your bloodstream either. All they've done is add some fiber to some processed sugar and fat. However, when it comes to fruit, other research on fruits like bananas show that they do not appear to cause a blood sugar increase. Rather, they appear to assist stabilize blood sugar in general, so this situation is not clear-cut. In order to be safe, keep to more greens and berries and less apples and oranges if you wish to drink smoothies. However, what about tofu? Although technically not completely whole because the bean skin has been removed, tofu doesn't seem to have any reason to cause an increase in blood fat levels. Dietary recommendations by Dr. Esselstyn appear to be sparing with it. Why? Well, tofu and all those other soy products have a 40% fat content, which is an issue. If anything, I occasionally prefer a very, very light silken tofu. According to what I've read, this seems to be more of a weight loss technique than anything else. There doesn't seem to be a health benefit to tofu consumption. It differs from soybean oil, which may be bad for your arteries, or soy protein isolate, which can significantly increase IGF-1. But what about plant milk? They are separating the liquid from the fiber to make plant milk. Even if you are not consuming as much fiber, it is still very low in calories. There doesn't seem to be any logical justification for avoiding drinking plant milks, especially because they don't contain any additives or strange sweeteners. For instance, a glass of almond milk only contains about 38 calories. What about sweeteners like maple syrup while we're talking about them? The patients were also instructed to stay away from sugary foods, sucrose, fructose, and drinks containing them, refined carbs, fruit juices, and syrup, according to Dr. Esselstyn's trial in which he reversed heart disease. Dr. Esselstyn prefers chopped dates to other sweeteners as sweetener, however, it seems that he views them as food with a yellow light. He uses maple syrup sparingly in his wife's recipe book, for instance. And agave is unquestionably quite elegant. Avoid it at all costs, it has some similarities to corn syrup. You must choose whether to eliminate or just reduce some of these gray regions and yellow light foods based on your goals. These yellow light foods are not as dangerous if you don't already have a sickness or high cholesterol. A whole food vegan diet encompasses all dietary choices, whether you choose to eat more or less of it. Everything is up to you. I'd also like to briefly touch on restriction in this context. If you have a history of an eating disorder and are extremely concerned about what foods to restrict or not, you should give this some more thought if it negatively impacts you. A more cautious approach would be to go to a whole food vegan diet gradually while making sure that all of your meals are well planned and you always have enough to eat. And if you find yourself having to choose between restricting or not eating at all, sometimes it's preferable to refrain from doing so. Additionally, whole oat groats are healthier for you than rolled oats. In conclusion, there is a whole food vegan diet that falls somewhere on a continuum. There is the Grade A diet and a diet that is similar to the Grade B Engine 2 diet. Grade A, in my opinion, is best for curing diseases, whereas Grade B might be better for preventing them. Yes, calling it whole food and little processed foods diet could be more accurate, but that's sort of a mouthful, and I think you get the idea now. I sincerely hope that I didn't merely make the situation more perplexing. If you found value in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, that's all I have for today. I appreciate your attention. Start thinking things like, I have to always consume the best foods that are whole and only whole. Stay healthy.